Hi, I'm Jody from Sportsmith's Tech Support Team, and today I'm going to demonstrate how to assemble the new Schwinn Airdyne AD. Now open up the box. Once you've opened the box, you'll notice that your manuals are here. Just pull them out. Remove the console support bar from the package. Remove the right and left foot pegs. Remove the seat post from the box. Remove the console and batteries. Remove the water bottle holder. Remove the front and rear stabilizers from the box. Here's the hardware and tools. Now remove the right and left handlebar from the box. Remove the seat from the box. Now you have just the frame and pedals left in the box, which can be lifted out of the box, but without the use of a second person, you can also just cut the box away from the frame. Once you've cut along both sides of the box here and here, you can just fold this flat back. And now it's much easier to remove the frame from the box. Once you've cut the box open, you'll see your pedals. Okay, now that you have your Schwinn Airdyne AD unboxed, the first thing you're going to want to do is you're going to want to install the front and rear stabilizers. But before we do that, I wanted to mention, when you get the frame out of the box, it has some little plastic covers here. Those are just there to keep that point from coming out of the box during shipping, so you can just remove and discard those from each side of the bike. To install your front and rear stabilizers, the first thing you're going to notice is that the hardware is pre-installed into the stabilizers. So they're not included in your hardware card. But you will need the 6mm hex wrench that is on the card. The stabilizer with no wheels with the Schwinn decal will go towards the rear of the bike, where the seat is, with the Schwinn facing out towards the back of the bike. The front stabilizer that has wheels will go on the front portion of the bike towards the fan cage, and will have the wheels facing out away from the bike. Remove the hardware from the stabilizer. Then have a second person help you to lift the frame and set it onto the stabilizer. Always finger tighten the bolts first to ensure that they're in the threads correctly. Repeat the process for the rear stabilizer. Now you're ready to install the pedals to your bike, and you'll notice on the pedal that there's an L on the left and an R on the right, and even on the pedal strap there's an L here. You'll also notice that the crank arms are labeled left and right. When installing the pedal strap to the pedal, be sure that you put the short end on the inside. This is the side that is least likely to be adjusted later. So now that the pedal strap is installed to the pedal, you can go ahead and thread it to the bike. And you'll also notice on your crank arm sticker, it shows which direction to turn that pedal for installation. Now use the tool that was included to tighten the pedal to the crank arm. So now repeat the process on the right side of the bike with making sure you have the right crank arm, the right pedal strap, and the right pedal. And then install the pedal to the crank arm. Finish tightening the pedal with the included tool. The next step is to install the console support bar, which you'll notice in the frame, in the holes for the console support bar. On one side you have a cable coming up, and there's a little twist tie in that hole. That's just in there to keep the cable from falling in the frame. So before installing the console support bar, you're going to want to loosen that. But don't let the cable fall into the hole. You'll notice on your console support bar on one side you have a cable. You just want to connect that in. Make sure it's fully connected. And then you don't want to crimp it. And slide the support bar into the frame. Now you can move forward with installing the hardware. Now on your hardware card you have some black bolts and washers labeled D and E. Those are the ones you're going to want to use to install the console support bar. The next step is to install the console to the bike, which you will do so by connecting this wire to this one. But first you're going to have to remove the hardware here, and then you mount the computer through these 4 holes. So now I've got the screws out. All I've got to do is just untwist this twisty tie here. And again, be careful to not let that cable fall into the frame, because it can be very difficult to feed that through there. Connect the cable. Then you're going to feed the extra wire into the back of the computer here. And make sure you get all of the wire in there and do not pinch it. Now that you've carefully made sure you've got the wire out of the way and it's not being pinched, you can go ahead and install the console to the frame. Install the batteries into the console. Make sure that the negative or flat end goes to the spring on both sides, like so. The next step is to install the water bottle holder to the bike using the hardware that's installed into the frame. The next step is to install the handlebar arms and foot pegs to the bike. To do so, you're going to use hardware from the card that's labeled A, B, and C. We're going to install the left handlebar and the left foot peg. Now, as you can see, if I just let that fall, it doesn't actually line up with the holes. So you will have to find the holes to line them up and get your hardware started. Once you've finger tightened both sides, go ahead and torque them up with the tool that was provided. Now install the seat post into the bike, making sure the holes face the back. And before you put the seat post in, you will have to unscrew this adjustment knob. Once you've done so, you can pull out on the knob, and that will allow the bar to slide in. See, it'll catch. When you pull that out, it'll slide in. So you can just set it to some adjustment and then tension it back up. The last step is to install the seat. To do so, you would just simply slide this post into this hole, then use the tool provided to tighten this nut clockwise. Be careful, because if you get this flipped around the other way, there's a catch and it won't slide onto the post. So make sure it's on that smooth side. Install the seat to the post. Adjust your seat angle and then just tighten the nut to the seat post. For more information about the Schwinn Airdyne AD6, please visit www.sportsmith.com. And now the assembly of your Schwinn Airdyne AD6 is complete. This concludes the demonstration.